Welcome back to Dear Rochester, Retire Well. Here's your host, Dave Paulsini, CFP.
We're live, Darrell. Folks, we're here with Darrell Bell right now.
I love it.
We started with he got the second best dress in high school.
I love it.
Where'd you go to high school?
Woodland Hills High School.
Where's that?
Pennsylvania.
Nice. Okay.
Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
We're known for having a lot of NFL players. Jason Taylor, Steve Breston, Lusaka Polite, Miles Sanders, who's current right now, Quentin Jefferson, who used to play for the Bills.
Yeah.
A lot of guys. So
Quentin Jefferson, the big man.
The big man.
They had a picture of him getting off of a plane with a turkey.
I can imagine.
Literally holding a turkey.
That was just a snack.
It's awesome.
That was just protein for the day.
Mid-morning snack. So now I got to ask you, for the folks that aren't watching, how many, I've seen you twice, 2 different pairs of glasses. How many pairs of glasses do you have?
25 pair. And all it took was my girlfriend to say that she liked Al Roker's selection. And that was in the very beginning of our dating. So you try to impress. Then AI picked up on the tendencies. And every time I looked at the news, there was 10 new pair off in the window. 25 pair later. Yeah, I got a nice little stand. And
wow.
So I like it.
Good for you, man.
Yeah. I keep calling it my COVID midlife crisis.
All right.
That's what it comes down to. I was like, if I wore the hairpiece, you'd be concerned. So I was like, the glasses will work. So
before we got going here, the producer Scott offered Darrell a job as a voiceover. So you also got that going for you. But
I'll take it.
What are you doing right now? And then we'll get into why you're actually here today. So what are you doing now for work? How'd you get into it? Tell us your story, man.
I work in higher education, so I am the vice president for advancement at Nazareth University. I'm a higher ed professional. I've been higher ed for 23 years, and I started out as a student. I actually went to University of Pittsburgh for administration of justice and thought that I wanted to be a police officer, a lawyer, something in the justice field, but ended up getting a job when I moved back to Pitt. Yeah. My parents said, if you live here, you're going to have to get a job. And I remember going through the Pitt classifieds and realizing that it was either food services or call alumni for like $12 an hour, which back in, the 90s was quite a bit of money, or actually early 2000s. Yeah. So ended up, working as a phone-a-thon caller. So I called University of Pittsburgh graduates and basically engaged them for 6 to 10 minutes on the phone and had to build up enough trust to get them to give me money over the phone. And I was very successful doing it and realized that this was a profession. There's people out that raise money and get people connected back to, things they're passionate about. And I realized there was a need for people, especially people of color, to do this work. So started out my journey there, and 23 years later, I've been an administrator for the past 8 years. So my job for Nazareth is really to be the community connector, to be out there meeting with people and letting them know the value of Nazareth education, but why it's important to invest back into the institution and fuel higher education as well. So I enjoy it. I get to meet a breadth of just different people that I wouldn't get to meet otherwise. I'm in circles that I wouldn't be in otherwise. So it's really awesome to meet people and learn their stories and their successes, and then really tap into what they're passionate about, educating them as to why it's important to be philanthropic and to help to fuel, the important things around us in the world. And watching kind of that inclination grow over time is just amazing, because you get them and they're nervous and, then they start to be more intrigued, and then you start to connect them with the people that are, kind of the product knowledge experts, and they start to get them excited. And the next thing you know, you're sitting there and you're asking for millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and people are doing it.
Yeah. How do you remember your script from your cold calling days in Pittsburgh?
Oh, man. And it's funny because I wrote a lot of those scripts, but man, it was short. It was sweet. Yeah. You really, when you're doing philanthropic work, a lot of it is listening.
Yep.
So you're doing about 20% of the talking, educating, things like that. It's very intentional, but what you're listening to is really trying to tap into the person and understand what drives and motivates them.
Yeah. It's 6 to 10 minute cold call is a pretty good one. Success rate has got to be pretty high.
Yeah. And the one thing I really loved about it was that you had a different mix. I mean, think about the breadth of an institution. You have engineers, you have medical, you have attorneys, you have all of these different people, and you get to kind of switch every 6 to 10 minutes and have those conversations with them. So
Yeah.
it's pretty cool.
So now, I mean, you're going from like, I get these calls, right? We're calling and it's like $50 or $60. And I have friends of mine, by the way, maybe I'll let you handle this objection. I already paid them hundreds of thousands of dollars. Now they're asking me for money.
Yep.
Actually, handle that, man. Do it now.
That's one of the classic things. Well, the thing is that people don't understand the finances of an institution. What they see is the check that they're putting out. And when you think about it, think about the scope of an institution. Keeping the lights on. Think about a university light bill, right? Yeah. So it's really just educating people as to where their dollars go to and having a clear understanding of what the operational expenses of the institution are. A big chunk of the institutional expenses are people, right? That's what make universities at least special. So, and they can relate to that because that's the one thing that they really appreciate. We were just in some sessions yesterday with students, and one thing they love is the people of the institution. So once you start to educate people, it starts to make sense that we're not a money-making machine. I mean, students do drive revenue, but, you know, a lot of people don't understand also that philanthropy has impacted their experience as well. So when you start to ask those probing questions and start to have conversations, then you realize, oh yeah, you were impacted by philanthropy. They received scholarships or utilized facilities on campus. You know, I really love the lab equipment in the science center. You know, a lot of that was donated, right?
Yeah.
So it's really just educating people that, you know, there's individuals out there that care about your college experience and, you know, invested in it. So we're asking you to pay it forward and, you know, do the same thing.
Yeah. So how do you literally ask someone, hey, can we get $1 million?
Oh, it's a process.
Yeah.
So a lot of people think it's just cut and dry like that. Like you just go out there, but there is an entire process and kind of like relationship management matrix that you use. So really it's going out and just qualifying somebody. Is this somebody that has the capacity and inclination to give back to our institution? And then you just start to cultivate them over time, right? And reach out to them, take them out for coffee, you know, invite them to university happenings, you know, connect them to the product knowledge experts. I'm somebody that has the breadth of the institution, but I can only drill down with so much. I mean, those are the people that live the day to day. So for me, it's about being, I kind of call it like a professional middleman, right? So I'm connecting people to things that really matter. And then from there, you just slowly just start to grow that inclination and that desire to make an impact. And then a lot of the times, if you're really positioned the right way, what you do is you craft a proposal, you know, with a lot of the information in there, the outcomes that'll come from their philanthropy. And then you go and you have a conversation with them, look them square in the eyes, and you ask them for whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, we do it all the time, right? Like we're handling people's assets or their retirement accounts or whatever it is. It's like transfer your $1 million here because this is how we're going to handle it.
That's it.
But that is I think it's different. I think it'd be more difficult for you because it's like you give your $1 million, here are the outcomes.
Yep.
To them, that's not that it's gone, but it's gone. When we're managing it, they could take it.
They don't get any money back from it.
Right.
What they get is this true connection to making a difference. And the thing that you can't measure is the footprint. You know, so like I tell people when they invest in a student, God only knows where that student's going to go and then the impact that that student's going to make and then how it kind of amplifies out from there. So, you know, it's getting people to catch that vision. So it's just like, I'm a vision teller. I'm a storyteller. You know, I get people to really understand those things. And a lot of it is education. You know, what it comes down to is people being educated about you can do this and it can really make a difference.
What is the most common outcome? We give $1 million to you guys. Give me like the top two. Like,
top two gifts or
no, well, that'd be cool too. But more like if you're making a proposal and you say, hey, you give me this $1 million and you're showing like these are potential outcomes that could happen. Like, give me two. Give me your favorite two.
So I would say normally when you're asking people, so say you have 4 clients that you're going to be asking for $1 million, you're going to get one of those people to give. Outcomes, I mean, there's been a whole bunch of like really cool things from buildings, you know, community engagement centers that help to draw on the community to research. You know, there's programmatic funds, so starting new programs. I think the coolest thing I've ever funded was a robot. So when I worked at Carnegie Mellon, you know, University, they were known for robotics. So I had one guy who was the president and CEO of a Vision robotics software company. And he basically gave me money for a game bot on campus. It was really cool.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So,
it's something you wouldn't think of. That's what I was going for. So I could talk to you all day about this. You're in the philanthropy world. You came from the cold calling days to now running the whole thing at NAS.
Yep.
What if, actually, I do have one more question. What about folks that are local that didn't go to that college? Do you reach out to them as well?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, because, I mean, when you look at higher education, it helps to fuel the economy. You know, you have right in the backyard of Pittsford over 600 employees and, you know, a lot of tax revenue that hits that community. And at the end of the day, I mean, we see a lot of our neighbors day to day, you know, walking through campus. It's a beautiful campus, you know, with their pets and just enjoying it in general. I mean, you think about the energy that college students bring, you know, to your community as well. So interestingly enough, it was a lot of the community that helped to keep NAS uplifted over time.
Interesting. Yeah. So, I just know this from my own experience. The only calls I get are from folks that are from my old college.
Yep.
And they're always fun to talk to.
So you don't have to be attached to an institution. You could see the value.
Right.
When you look at a NAS education, it's service oriented. A lot of our students are in social work, nursing, areas that are going out there and impacting the community, especially the region. So about 80% of our alums stay in New York State. So people realize that, you know, these are the people that are working hard for us and they want to make an investment.
I have a lot of teachers that we work with. That went to NAS.
My girlfriend's a NAS alum.
Yeah,
teacher.
There you
right?
go.
So a lot of teachers. You're right. Education, huge.
Yeah. So to change directions a little bit, I want to go on your other stuff. So we just talked about your full-time job.
Yeah.
But I wanted you to come on to talk about this other cool thing that you're working on. And
what, the new side hustle of the voiceovers?
We can talk about the voiceover.
I just signed the contract literally
I wish
10
we could get him
minutes ago.
let's get him something to read as a tryout live. We'll do that later. But the other side hustle.
Yeah, the other side hustle.
Yeah, tell us about that.
Oh, a long time coming, man.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been 10 years. Like I said, I've been in this profession for 23 years, and kind of the concept of my side hustle came about 10 years ago. So one thing I've learned in 23 years of doing this work is that the average American household doesn't truly understand philanthropy. They understand giving in a very different way. So what I mean by that is that a majority of people know what it's like to write a check to give your tithes at church. They know what it's like to write a check for the Girl Scout cookies. But like sitting down as a family or as an individual and really mapping it out, I'm going to give away $5,000 this year. And these are the areas that I'm going to give it to. A lot of people aren't having those discussions. You know, a lot of people are just making it day to day, you know, but people don't realize that they can make a bigger impact than what they think. So over time, you know, I realized talking to different individuals that, you know, I've been involved with through my university work that people really struggle with it. And it's because they have all of these different entities that are approaching them, especially if we know you have money. And it's overwhelming, right? So really sitting down with them to understand, like, what do you truly care about? And that's why I said a lot of what we do is listening. And then really being intentional about making those connections. There's a lot of people that give right now and don't necessarily know the impact. They just know it's a good organization, but it's just like, be more tied to your philanthropy, like really understand the impact that you're making. So over time, it's like all these little things were like adding up for me. And then, you know, I said I went to Woodland Hills High School. So there's a lot of guys that went from rags to riches overnight. And, you know, they went from basically not being able to give much money to wearing $50,000 watches and, you know, 3-4 cars and houses and, you know, nice areas and things like that. But when I was looking at their giving, it was a, you know, 1,000 here, 2,000 here. And it was because nobody really, you know, talked to people about giving growing up. So I had a friend, and essentially he was doing really well in the NFL, and he had a foundation that essentially impacted single moms. There were so many single mothers, you know, in his life that, you know, he saw struggles, so he wanted to help to impact that. So he was taking, you know, a little bit of money out and using it, you know, to fuel this foundation, but it wasn't set up for long-term success. So whenever he stopped playing, you know, kind of entered the, you know, the normal world, not having that revenue kind of pumped into your account year to year.
Yeah.
It's no longer, so still philanthropic, but not to the level that he could have been. So then I just started to test the market a little bit. I have friends that are connected to, celebrity agents, things like that. And I'm like, are people talking to you about philanthropy? And they're like, yeah. And I don't know what to tell them. I was talking to financial folks like yourself and, are you talking to your clients about philanthropy? Not necessarily, but I tell them they got a lot of money and they need to think about what they're going to do with it. Talking to estate attorneys, are you talking to people about their estates? Yeah, they got money and I'm telling them, get rid of it, or they're stuck. They don't want to give it to their kids. So really, I learned that there was an opportunity to engage people in philanthropic conversations and really educate them about, you don't need to have, hundreds of millions of dollars to be a philanthropist. You can have $1,000 a year to give away and make an impact, or whatever the case may be. So I started the thought of Siempre 10 years ago, and I started writing it out, just kind of like different thoughts on my iPhone notes. And over time, just kind of collected thoughts. And then I got to a point where I realized there was nothing else there. The only thing was to act on it. And it just happened to be around COVID. So I said, well, I don't have any excuses. I can't go anywhere. So I started to map out what the company, would look like, and really it's just me, and I'm really just starting out. Kind of working with 2 people right now. I didn't really launch it because of some family circumstances, but the more and more I have the conversation with people, they get excited and they're like, it's niche. And the outcomes are that when you help people give money better, then it'll help our communities better, because people will set up their philanthropy the right way, be very intentional about how they give it, and then sustain it long term. So, when they pass on, the big joke I say is you can't take it with you. So find something meaningful to do with it. It'll help to sustain it long term. So I started Siempre Philanthropic Advisors, and, went and worked with some branding people, have my website. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah. You're, I have so many questions I could ask about that. So your job right now, like, let's pretend it's me and I want to set up some sort of endowment that is meaningful to me. You would question me. You would ask, hey, what are you looking to do long term? Can you explain what an endowment is? I could, but I want to hear from you.
So an endowment is basically a long-term investment in an organization. So the way that I look at Siempre's work is that I have 2 different channels that I'll be working, and one is annual advising. Like there's a gentleman that I met that moved here 2 years ago. He's an executive for Rochester Regional. And he said, me and my wife are setting up this foundation, but we really need somebody to sit down with and have a conversation about where to give the funds to, help us to do the research on the organizations we have interest in. Again, be very intentional about the outcomes that we're going to see from this investment. And then I have people that we're talking about long-term impact, right? So there's a woman locally that I'm friends with that is going to inherit a lot of family resources. And she says, I give away money right now because she's an attorney, but I'm going to get a whole lot of money at some point, and I want to set up a foundation to be able to sustain that for generations to come. If you have family, they can help to see that through. So it becomes a family affair at that point. So endowments are basically larger transformational gifts. Different organizations have different endowment levels. At Nazareth, to endow a scholarship, it's $25,000, and normally you can do it over a 5-year time period. So it's awesome. $25,000 seems like a lot of money, but when you break it down into $5,000 a year over 5 years, and you think about that's forever, and you can continue to grow it over time, right? So you can add, once you get, the principal set up, you can add to it over time. So by the time you do pass, it's significant. You get to see those tangible results. So we are really about endowment because it helps to sustain an organization.
I think about, and we won't get into this today, the estate implications for folks, the tax implications, what that means for them now. Giving money away. Warren Buffett said his kids basically aren't going to get any money. hundreds of billions of dollars, right? And it's like,
it's funny because people with money don't trust their kids. They're just like,
the third generation blows it, man.
I've seen their spending habits.
That's
right.
I'm
not going to leave all this money behind.
That's right. And I run into that a lot too. And especially the demographics of the United States, right? Like the baby boomer generation's huge. I talk about this a lot. It's 10,000 people every day are turning 65.
Yeah.
They have the largest amount of money, trillions of dollars
savers,
going to transfer.
Man.
Yeah.
My parents were savers.
Yeah.
I was like, I know we never went on vacation.
Well, now you know why.
That's it.
But they have $72 million in a 401k, right?
Yeah.
No memories.
Being an only child, I know what they have. And I was like, now it makes sense. But man.
So, I love it.
There's going to be a big transfer wealth that's going to come down the pike.
We deal with it literally at least weekly. I'm getting somebody that is inheriting money or something's going on. So honestly, that's why I wanted to have you come on this to talk about what folks are doing with that and how, again, I'm not going to get into the tax implications of estate planning. We could talk about that with people individually. But another thing I would want is if you sit down with us, we do our thing, we give away money. I want my kids to see it.
Yeah, and that's the awesome thing about, what I'm trying to set up here is that it's generational. You can set up a foundation where I've seen foundations set up where family members are the trustees of it. And essentially there's a pot of money, and of that pot of money, each individual is given a piece of it. And then of the larger pot of money, that is where there's bylaws that are set up basically suggesting what is going to be the purpose of that foundation. And you get to deliberate and really kind of, scrutinize proposals or whatever the case may be. Or you may say, we just give to, cancer research or do whatever. But you get to define how you make that impact. And when you see the outcomes, it's just you can't deny it. And I think that's my biggest disappointment of people that don't give back that have money, because you're just like, you're missing out on so much.
Yeah. Especially, listen, we work with several large accounts.
Yep.
And just the markets alone in the last couple of years, you see people making hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in interest, and a lot of people don't need it.
Yeah.
I keep running into people that I'm like, you're going to have to spend money.
Yep.
And my clients that are listening to this, they know exactly what I'm talking about. All the time, I'm like, you need to start spending some of your money.
But
it's weird for certain folks to watch that balance go down.
Yeah, right? It's like people think they're going to run out of money. Yeah, and especially generational mindset, because the boomer generation didn't come up with a lot of money, right? So, and their parents didn't. So it's their savers and whatever else. And you're just like, you're fine. You're going to continue to make, gains on your investments, and you can continue to use that to fuel what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So
you I could give you my wife's number right now. There's no way she's going to listen 23 minutes into this podcast. So I almost want to call her live. And I'll tell you what to say. You could get her on horse rescue, animal rescue or injuries.
That's it.
And she would set up an endowment right now if she could.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll call her live next time. Put her on the spot.
I think you should seriously consider that for her, because it's places like that aren't necessarily, getting, those type of conversations. I just looked at the Giving USA report, and I advise anybody to look into it. It's the 2023 Giving USA Philanthropy report, and it talks about just philanthropy in America and what that looked like over the past year. Do you know how much money was given away philanthropically over the past year?
I have no clue.
500 and close to $60 billion was given away philanthropically. About 375 billion of that was from individuals. The next one down was from foundations. So there's a lot of money that's given away year to year. The top area that it was given to was religion. And then human services came after that, and then education.
Okay.
So there's a lot of money that's being given away to different things, but like horse rescues, if they got a call for an endowment, I can almost guarantee you it would be a blessing to them.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of organizations don't have the people, the staff. You're talking, these are nonprofits, right? So they're trying to be very respectful with the dollars that they're bringing in. So they don't have very robust shops. Higher education is different. just because of all the constituents that you're responsible for. So like my staff is 20 people. We're responsible for over 36,000 relationships, tied to Nazareth. So
wow.
There's definitely certain levels of sophistication when it comes down to different shops.
So what do you do? Okay, you call my house. Husband is like, I want to feed this hungry kids. Wife says, I want to save the horses.
Yep.
Who wins?
I think at the end of the day, I think both wins. I think that you have a certain amount of resources. It's just looking at it and then really tying into those organizations that you want to impact to understand like how you can make an impact. What are some of the minimum endowment levels? If they gave an expendable gift that was spent out over time, what would that look like? So the intentionality around engaging the organizations in conversation. So there's an accountability there on both the person that's giving away the money to make sure their resources are being used right, and then on the organization to make sure that they're stewarding those resources appropriately as well. So,
man, so I could ask you 50 more questions. We're already coming. You got stuff to do today. I know it's busy. People are coming back to Nazareth. So I want two more things. One is, if you could talk to your NFL friends right now.
Yep.
Because I've run into some of these. We have connections within our own firm to NFL prospects and players that are signing large contracts.
Yep.
And then I'll ask you a more general question. But
Yep.
what would you say to those guys right now, man? And they're 22, 23 years old. Most of them have never had that sudden wealth event.
Yep.
What are you saying to them?
Definitely think about what you're passionate about in your community, be it like my friends, single moms, other people, disabilities, cancer. They have the whole my cleat, my cause thing. So there's a lot of guys out there that are passionate about something. It's thinking about what you are passionate about. Sit down with somebody like a philanthropic advisor to really understand your financial situation and understand where you could make a long-term impact.
Yeah.
Give annually. You got to pay taxes annually. It helps to offset taxes. So, give away some of that money. Give it to the government or give it to an organization, right?
Yeah.
And then think about your long-term impact. The thing about it is that we never know when God's going to pull our number, right? So I always tell people, regardless of what age you are, because you think about it with like NIL students and,
that's right.
There's going to be a lot younger kids that are going to experience wealth sooner. Set it up for the long term. So that at least if your circumstances change, you have something that's set up that is, close to what you care about.
Well, and they're going to change.
Yep.
And NFL careers, besides Tom Brady, I guess, which I can't believe I just said his name on the Buffalo Bills podcast. But but these guys, you're not around for a long time, and you sign a 3, 5, 10, $20 million deal. And I know some of those are rare, but it goes back to you said people think they're going to run out of money.
Yep.
If they give $250,000 and it's tax deductible, all depending on the state and where they're at and everything. But man, they won't even notice, right?
That's it.
They won't even notice.
That's it. And you could do it over time. And that's the one thing I try to tell people is like, you don't have to give it in one big chunk. If somebody called me right now and said, I'll give you $1 million over 10 years, I'm not going to say no. I'm going to say, all right, what do you want to give it to? How do we help to set that up?
Right. And these guys get paid game checks, right? So you get a game check.
Pretty significant game checks.
Yeah.
Too. So think about it weekly, getting 100, 200,000, sometimes $1 million.
This is what I'm saying.
Think about some of these baseball contracts, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah. Yeah. So my point of that was minus the 10,000 or 25,000, some of they wouldn't even notice. And then now they've made an impact. And now I'm knocking on wood, the injury happens or the average 3 to 5 year NFL career is over. You've got something set up.
Yep.
Also, I would say to those guys, it connects them in a way with the community that nothing else will. Number one. Number two,
huge.
When the NFL career is over, it's almost as if they're building a second career for themselves with something they're passionate about.
That is it.
Yep.
That is it. You can continue to be anchored into the community long term than your family, like we said before. So it's amazing to watch that evolve, over time.
Yeah. So, all right, man. Well, how can people, hungry kids, horses, NFL players, the whole thing, how do we get a hold of you if someone wants to talk to, like, taking the next step?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Darrell Bell, or you can go to trustsiempre.com. Available there. There's information on the, on my company. And if you have interest in investing in higher education and you care about education in general, healthcare, things like that. NAS is a great, place to do that. So like I said, we have people from the community that invest in us all the time. Actually, all of our top, $1 million gifts, a good chunk of them have been from community members.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, hey, man, listen, I appreciate the time.
Yeah.
Folks.
Thanks for having me on here. Man. It's been a great conversation.
I'm going to say make it a great day. Make it a great day. But I have one more question.
One more question.
Who are you going to vote for in this year's presidential election?
I'm a Democrat, man. I'm a Democrat.
You didn't really have to answer it.
At the end of the day, man, it is what it is.
I love it.
I got views on both sides. I vote socially Democrat just because, social issues that relate to me.
Yeah. That's how most people should vote. Yeah.
Yeah, that's, so no shame in that, man.
I love it. Good for you.
I live around a bunch of Republicans. We have conversations all the time. It's open dialogue that people need to have.
Oh, you guys aren't fighting each other.
Yeah.
Imagine that, man.
Understanding.
Maybe this is going on the podcast. Yeah.
It's about creating understanding.
That's right.
And as somebody that's a relationship builder, you adapt to various different views and, upbringings and things like that. Yeah, so I'm somebody that doesn't shy away from the conversation.
No, I think you know this. Like there's over here and there's over here, and there are plenty of middle ground. There's a lot of middle ground that most people are not extreme one or the other, but that's all that's getting shown. So then you dive on that, and it's like, well, what a bunch of idiots on that side. Mm-hmm. And we had Jim Harshaw on, who is actually I might have mentioned this to you. He did at Virginia Tech what you're doing at NAS.
Wow.
And he was flying around asking for the $1 million gifts, but
huge program.
He came on our podcast, and first question I asked him, because he's done like thousands of podcasts, I go, who are you going to vote for this year? And he's like, I don't know, but he did make a great point. And until you can completely understand the perspective of somebody else and you can explain it the way that they're thinking, you almost shouldn't even have an argument.
That's it.
Right?
And that's about creating a space for conversation and understanding as to why people vote for whoever they're voting for. And it builds a certain level of common ground. So
I think so too.
You can agree to disagree all day long, It
doesn't matter.
And still be civil with each other.
I know, man. Listen, I'm new to social media thanks to our guy Steve. But I'll get on there.
Steve is the man.
Steve's the man. So I'll get on to Facebook. And there's certain people on there that I haven't seen in 20, 25 years from my hometown, Palmyra Macedon High School. I know you're out in Macedon. The
315,
but I know
412 at heart. Always will be.
It's what is it? Woodland Hills,
Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, Pittsburgh's 412.
Pittsburgh.
Okay.
Yep.
So but I just see these posts on there, and I'm like, man, whatever guy you don't like is so in your head, it just ruins your day.
Yeah,
I can't allow that to happen, man.
Yeah, why allow people to really invade your peace like that? And I'm all about peace the older I get, because I realize I don't have but so much energy, and the negativity just drains it. I'm just like, there's just so much good to be done out here that.
Yeah, and you're asking for it, right? You get on social media, post this stuff. You are asking for 50% of the people to be mad at you and say mean things that don't even know where you're coming from. For what purpose? You're not going to change their mind. I can tell you that by posting a Joe Biden falling down the stairs or Donald Trump with some lady. You're not changing the other person's mind.
That's it.
It's interesting. So I didn't even mean to ask you that. Now, folks, make it a great day. Let's get you out of here, man. I appreciate your time.
Thanks for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Content here is for illustrative purposes and general information only. It is not legal, tax, or individualized financial advice, nor is it a recommendation to buy, sell, or hold any specific security or engage in any specific trading strategy. All investing involves risk, including loss of principal. Results will vary. Past performance is no indication of future results or success. Market conditions change continuously. Information here is provided, in part, by third-party sources. These sources are generally deemed to be reliable. However, neither 6 Point Financial Partners, Private Client Services, nor RFG Advisory guarantee the accuracy of third-party sources. The views expressed here are those of 6 Point Financial Partners. They do not necessarily represent those of Private Client Services, RFG Advisory, their employees, or their clients. This commentary should not be regarded as a description of advisory services provided by 6 Point Financial Partners or RFG Advisory, or performance returns of any client. The views reflected in the commentary are subject to change at any time without notice. Securities offered by registered representatives through Private Client Services, member SIPC. Advisory services offered by investment advisory representatives of RFG Advisory, LLC, RFG Advisory, or RFG, a registered investment advisor. Private Client Services, 6 Point Financial Partners, and RFG Advisory are unaffiliated entities. Advisory services are only offered to clients or prospective clients where RFG Advisory and its representatives are properly licensed or exempt from licensure. No advisory services may be rendered by RFG Advisory unless a client agreement is in place.